All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. We got a great opportunity here to share some insights from a legend, Power Up Pivot, with and Survive to Thrive with Dave Jenks. Dave is a 30-year leader and expert in the real estate industry. He's a master trainer, entrepreneur, business leader, and best-selling co-author of several books. You may have heard of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and Shift. For 12 years, he served as a vice president at KWRI and dean of KW University. Yeah. And we're really pleased that he's here with us today. A couple of housekeeping things. Everybody's on mute. So if you do have questions, please submit them in the chat box, and we're going to cover them towards the end. And we just want to say thanks to Lindsay Musser and Legacy Branding Gifts and Randy Diefenbach, Finance of America, for supporting us today.
Yeah,
Dave,
thank you.
Turn it over to you.
Well, I just want to thank them, the sponsors. You know, we always believe that we are in business with our affiliates and our sponsors. We treat them with respect, not just asking for money, but we really love it when they team up with us to sponsor something important like this educational event. So thank you. And I also want to say to those of you who are here, I have incredible respect for you and the fact that you've taken the time out to be here with me. You know, Gary Keller and I, as we were building Keller Williams University, just agreed that the real key, and it's one of the 6 personal perspectives, the real key to high achievers is they are learning based. And that means whenever they want to go to the next level, they go and commit themselves to a learning opportunity. And that's what this is. And I will just promise you, you will come out of this today with a better sense of what to do right now, a real sense of positioning yourself for incredible growth in your business when we come out of this chaos. And then hopefully some real long-term stability for you in running your business. So that's my commitment. Now I'm going to take over the screen and share a couple things with you because as we go through this. So the first thing I want to do is share with you the flyer we sent out that got you here, because I want to deliver on that promise. My promise is to talk to you about powering up, pivoting smart, and then surviving this chaos in order to thrive coming out, which is what we have learned in Keller Williams over several times. I'll cover some of the times that we have been through adversity, both Gary and me individually and Mo, and then the company as a whole. And Keller Williams, it's important to understand we were built out of adversity, and we understand dealing with adversity. And every time we've been hit with a down market or a tough time like 9/11 or those kind of things, we have come out of it with strength and with muscle and with survival. And it's taken us to the top of the real estate industry. Of course, by far and away, we're 40% larger than any other real estate company in the world and growing faster than anybody else in terms of numbers. So. And that's because we honor the real estate agent. We honor you. We honor learning-based people who want to grow and achieve big things. So there's 3 things I want to do this afternoon. They're covered in the bullet points. Number 1 is I want to talk about 2 things that matter to you. That is your 2 sources of power. Actually, it's 3. And 3 priorities in this chaos. Then I want to really look at how you use the models of MREA and MREI. And then the final thing I want to talk about is your own staying power, how to be confident, how to build self-mastery, how to stay calm and focused in any condition, because you as a leader and a producer and a leader of your family, that's a set of skills that you want to build. So let's start with the first one. First of all, there's 3 things right now you need to be paying attention to power-wise, energy-wise. Number 1 is yourself. Take care of yourself. They say in the airlines, put your own oxygen mask on first. There has never been a time when you more need to put on your own oxygen mask first. There's a lot of people pulling on you. They want your time, they want your attention, family, kids, responsibilities, cooking, laundry, maintenance stuff, whatever it is, and other people wanting a piece of your time. But I am telling you right now, you have to take care of you. You have to take care of your health, your nutrition. I mean, I have upped my amount of vitamin supplements every day. There's a great immunologist who I listen to who said, to prevent getting any virus, particularly this one, you want to double your vitamin A up to 50,000 international units. It's actually two small pills. Your D up to 3,000 or 4,000, and your C up to 2,000 or 3,000. Just those are the fundamentals, and I've upped mine. Plus, I take some other supplements too. So I do that. Then I exercise at least 4 times a week. I get out on pretty rigorous. My fitness center is closed, so I'm glad I bought a Peloton. So I hop on my Peloton and get that workout. But it's not just about doing a high cardio workout. It's about getting exercise. And then the other thing is get rest. I meditate. I sleep 8 or 9 hours a night. I do it restfully. Yes, there's a lot on my mind, but I learned how to quiet it down. I'm going to talk about that later, because one of the great skills in self-mastery is to quiet your monkey mind, to get down into your alpha state and be able to sleep and rest and be creative. So take care of yourself. That's number one. There's a lot of virtue signaling going on about taking care of others and reaching out to others and caring for others and all that stuff. I am telling you, you can't do that if you don't take care of yourself first. It's not selfish. It's very generous. Take care of yourself first. Number two, your environment. You can see in this day and age, you only want to work on what you can control. You can control your environment, and your environment, as Gary Keller says, needs to support your goals. So if you have the goal of being in real estate and being successful, if you're here, that's probably should be your goal. That's your work. You're doing that to provide for your family, to provide for your well-being, and to serve other people. So commit to that. Commit to that. Don't take time off. Don't go, binging on Netflix and taking time off and trying to be an in-house teacher, homeschooler. There's some things we can talk about that, but don't do that. And make sure you set aside 8 hours, 6 minimum, 8, 10 is okay, for your business. And what does that mean? You need a private, quiet place that is away from all distraction for you. If you work out of home, then you need to have a spot in your home somewhere. I talked to an agent the other day who was telling me she said, I had to negotiate this for 2 weeks with my family, and finally I got this little space. It's not very big, but it's private, and they let me be private in there. I've got my headset and my computer, and I can do business. I can communicate and I can get education because I need to do that. So you need to set up that space. Now, if you're paying for a rental space in your office or whatever, I mean, I understand there's a whole bunch of regulations about shutting down, but you have every right to go. You're a critical person. You have every right to go to your office. No, you can't meet clients there. No, you can't meet with other people, but you can go in. You got your key or your pad, and go in and go to your office and go to work. That's your private place. You're paying for it. Why not do it? You're not disturbing anyone. You're not putting anyone at risk. You're not doing group stuff. You're staying distant, all that stuff. So I'm just saying, assert yourself to create your productivity specific environment where you can do the things you need to do to be successful. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you that in the next one. Here's the third thing, your relationships. Who impacts you? The people around you impact you. And so you need to sort who they are. You don't need any NIOPs in your environment, any negative influence on people, NIOPs. You don't need any of that. You don't need any victims and down players and, discouraged people and depressed people and all that. You don't need them. You don't need them. They're on their own. They cannot bring you down. You cannot let that happen. There's many great books out now. We'll talk to some of them later about in positive psychology about you staying in a positive, optimistic state of mind is so key to you achieving what you want to achieve. And that takes work to do. It doesn't happen automatically, and your environment influences you. So if people around you are being negative, tell them to stop. If they won't stop, don't listen to them. Get separate from them, or just don't pay any attention to them. And by the way, here's a big one. Stay away from the media. Stay away, away, away. Now, I'm in the encore years of my life, and I'm writing my memoirs called Seeker, A Journey Toward Wisdom. And so I'm very interested in politics and governance and all these issues because they're big issues, and I want to understand how they work. And I've been studying them. But here's the thing. I'm not paying attention to what's going on now because it's all fear-based and chaos. And there's all kind of political positioning and going on. And by the way, none of it is anything that I control. So one of the things I would highly recommend to you is that you get subscribed to the dailystoic.com, Daily Stoic, STOIC.com. It's a great feed every day on issues. And the Stoic philosophy comes out of those people who learned how to deal with chaos, who learned how to stay strong when things were going bad, who learned how to control their own emotions. Great, these are great philosophers, Roman and Greek, during very tough times. In fact, big epidemic times. They had epidemics much bigger than the one we're dealing with, much bigger, devastating. And yet they learned how to stay strong. And what they said was, look, epidemics come and go. I mean, that's just hurricanes come and go, tornadoes come and go. You just have to find your way through it. So the Stoic philosophy is a good one, and that feed is a good one, but turn off all the other media. Because what the Stoics say, and this is really important, they say there's 4 fundamental characteristics that we have that are strong: serenity, courage, wisdom, and justice. And I will tell you, and I remember going through Alcoholics Anonymous, we learned, it was a big part of our meetings, the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that I will then be driven in my actions by justice. As Keller Williams says, do the right thing. So get in touch with that. That's important to you because you're building that environment. And then relationship-wise, hang out with the positive people in your office. See, I think Keller Williams doesn't have market centers. They have energy centers. They have mastermind centers. They have places where you plug in, power up, and go. Well, now we can't gather so much, so build your network, just like we are here. We're doing it this way. But you can have a small network of masterminders who you get together with, who you share ideas with, who you share the ways you're getting through this, and you hold each other accountable in a positive way. So build that network of people who influence you and help you get to where you want to go. I want to go back, just as we finish this, though, to the first one. I think there's a big thing to do for your health, and I call it the placebo. Joe Dispenza wrote a wonderful book called The Placebo Effect. And what he said is, which is true, all scientific research shows that if you give somebody a sugar pill and tell them it's a medication that's going to take care of their condition, in a big percentage of cases, it will. Their condition will go away. Why? Because they believe that it will. So that placebo effect, the fact that your belief impacts how your physiological body works, is a big deal. So here's my big placebo to myself. Dave, you have one of the most powerful immune systems ever. It has survived millions and millions and millions of years of evolution, and you're the end result of that. It's dealt with viruses and cancer and all these invaders all the time. It's what it's built for. Your immune system is powerful. Anything that comes your way, any virus, it'll either knock it out or help you easily survive through it. That's the placebo I give myself, and I believe it. I really believe it. I'm not worried about this personally and physically. So anyway, give yourself a placebo. So those are the 3 things. Take care of yourself, build an environment that supports you, and a network. Now, here's the 3 things you're going to do in this time. Number 1 is pay attention to the current market. Business is being done out there. I just got a notice from Boise, Idaho. Last week, they took over 300 listings in Boise, Idaho. They had 280 closings. And I've heard this from other markets too. Now, some markets are more shut down than others. I understand that. But you go find out what's going on in yours. And if you've got customers that you're working with, there's your number 1 priority, that you give them energy. You find a way. If you got sellers, you do virtual open houses, you do virtual tours. You work very carefully with the inspectors to be able to, be distanced and get out there and do their job, and appraisers. And you just work with all of your vendors, all the people that support you, all of the financial people, all of the mortgage people, all of the providers, because they're trying to do business too. And then really pay attention to what's going on, because we say in Shift, you want to be the local economist of choice. All real estate is local. All real estate is local. Doesn't matter what's going on nationally. It's what's going on in Princeton. It's what's going on in your target marketplace. So know what's going on there. Know what homes are listing. And if somebody lists a home, call them up and find out how they did it. And if somebody has an accepted purchase offer and goes to closing, find out how they did it. And other people, particularly in your office, because Keller Williams agents share so much with each other, find out who's doing business. Listen on KW Connect, because there's a ton of agents right now that are telling people how they're staying in business during this tough time. They're giving the examples and the stories, how they hold virtual open houses and do virtual tours and sign contracts, with .loop and DocuSign and all those, how we use technology. It's a wonderful thing that we're in an age of technology, and that's going to get me to another point in a second. So take care of the businesses there, study the markets there, and use that as what you communicate out to people about. This is a time you can still list. This is a great time to list your property and get it ready for when the push comes on the other end. Because I know we have lots of opinions out there, but I believe when we come out of this, there's going to be a push in real estate, because there's nothing that has brought the real estate need down, not like it did in 2007, 2008 with the subprime lending and all of that. Yeah, real estate in a sense was the cause of that downturn, and we all had to deal with that, but we didn't cause this one. And there's a buildup of people who need to buy and sell. So be ready to handle that. Now, that takes us to the second one, which is lead generate. Use this time to expand your database. Your database is your business. We say that in MREA. So expand that database. Go out, call the people that are your past clients that are on your database. Ask them how they're doing. Update their file with you. Get their latest email address. Get their cell phone number. Find out how they're doing. Did they get a promotion? Are they in a job? Get personal information about them and get it in your database, because that is what's going to position you. Now you're going to say, now I'm getting ahead a little bit because the next thing is about training. So anyway, we're going to talk about how you can combine what you're doing in training with what you're doing in lead generation. But lead generate, call people, ask how they're doing, check in with them. They'll remember you and give them market updates. Okay, then the third thing you're going to do is develop yourself, increase your bandwidth, increase your knowledge, increase your skills. And the place you're going to go first in Keller Williams is command. If you haven't mastered command, it's the greatest database ever invented, with all kinds of marketing tools and graphical things and things you can send out. And I don't even know all the tools and systems that are there, but it's powerful and it's built and it's driven by big data. And it's guided by artificial intelligence, Kelly, and all of that. So you're going to want to be really plugged into this, because it is the platform of the future. And what's really neat is that Keller Williams, see, all these other companies are really struggling in this time. I mean, Realogy's stock has gone down like to nothing, and they already are $3 billion in debt. I don't know how they're going to survive that. And then Zillow off the table, down low. EXP stock way down. And the thing is, none of those companies have the resilience to keep going through tough times. Keller Williams does. We don't have an ounce of debt. Gary's been dedicating millions of dollars into the development of technology over the last 4 years. So brilliant. I mean, he didn't know this was coming, but it's perfect, because now we are going to come out of this with the platform that serves our consumer and us. Because Gary Keller always wants the agent to be at the center of the transaction. That's what built this company to what it is, that commitment to keep the agent. It's not about the company. It's not even about your market center, although we believe in that, because that's what brings you the power right there, with Frank and Wendy and the team. That's what brings you the power. But the thing is that the overall system is what supports them. And what we've done is we've invested in this technology. We've got the amount of training. I mean, other companies are saying that they're doing some Zoom calls and things like that, like they're training. It's nothing like KW Connect and what's coming from there, and KW Live every day. And I mean, really good agents from all over the country sharing their wisdom of every aspect of the business. So I know sometimes it's hard to decide what you're going to tune into. So use your network to do that. When you listen to something and it's really good, let that word get around to other people. Be a guide to them as to which things to take advantage of. So here's the thing. When you go out now lead generating, what can you do to your consumer? You say, by the way, we at Keller Williams have a very special app that will allow you to stay in touch with all aspects of the value of your home, the potential refinancing of your home at some time if you want to. It'll give you that information and choices. In addition, it'll tell you what's going on in the local marketplace. And then if you're wanting to move somewhere, you can go investigate what's going on in that market, just as if you were a realtor. It's amazing, the information. So would you like that service? I can bring it to you. Oh yeah, please. So you get them on the app, and then you say, now who else do you know that would would find it an advantage to have this real estate app for themselves? And they say they give you 2 or 3 names, and you say, that's wonderful. What's the best way to reach them? Phone number, email, great. And would you mind if I use your name when I call them? See, because what your game is, the game right now, and we always said it is, your success in real estate will be in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of real estate, think of you. So you're expanding that bandwidth. That's what we talked about in MREA page, well, I'll give you the pages in a second. But we talked about how you expand that database and then create your inner circles of advocates. And then over time that grows. And so that's how you build a referral-based business. And by the way, that's what hasn't changed in real estate. Yes, there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of talk about things changing. But NAR has been studying buyers and sellers for like 25 years. And they still say that the agent they picked to list their home with was the one that they had either used before or were referred to. And 75% of sellers only interview one agent, and another 10 or 15% interview two. So you want to be the one or two, and the way you do it is you build a database and you communicate with them. So that's your priority. And I would be giving, Gary Keller says 3 or 4 hours a day to that. I would be giving 3 or 4 hours a day to that. And by the way, on page 79 in Shift, we tell you what to do with those 3 hours. We tell you what 3 to 4 hours, because it's not just one thing. It's not just calling people. There's 3 things that you do. You prepare, you take action, and you maintain your database, you do your follow-up. So that's all in that category. So you're going to lead generate. And then the final thing what you're going to do is educate. This is a great time, to take a sabbatical. Not really, you're going to stay active, but to really say, what do I need to read? I need to reread MREA and Shift. And I'm going to show you where to reread those, because I need to really get my knowledge and my game up to another level. Or I'm going to spend time on Zoom calls, because I am going to learn this business, and I'm going to use this time so that when, as Dave said, we come out of the other side and there's a really bump up in the need for real estate, we're going to be the ones. We are going to thrive. And I know that that's going to happen for those who do the 3 things I just said and prepare. So what are they? Take care of the business that's there today and know what's going on in the market. Number 2, lead generate and build your database. And number 3 is educate, and particularly master your technology, command, and consumer. Okay. Now I want to shift gears a little bit and kind of come to an understanding about what matters in this business that we're playing, and that what matters to us right now. And I learned a very interesting thing from, I did the wrong thing. Okay, hang on a sec. I need to, all right. So I learned a thing from Floyd Wickman, who was one of my early mentors. Some of you may know of him, a great real estate trainer. And he said, Dave, magic comes in 3s. He said, everything you remember in 3s. And he said, when you use 3s, people remember it. So he would say, whenever you're in selling, you always name 3 benefits, and that'll be memorable. And he said, you always kind of save the most powerful one for the end. And so I remember, because he was teaching me, when we talk about our benefit to sellers, we say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my job is to get you the most money in the least time with a minimum of inconvenience to you. See, came in 3. When we talk to buyers, we say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're going to get you a home that really works for you. It's going to be the best valuable and most affordable for you. We're going to get that in the right time with a minimum of time waste or inconvenience for you. So that magic comes in 3. We used to, in the early days of Keller Williams, when it was Keller Who, I never heard of Keller Williams. Who's that? And we would teach a script that said, well, let me tell you about Keller Williams. Keller Williams is the newest, most innovative, fastest growing real estate company in North America. Well, there we go. See, that power came in 3s. Or now we say, why am I with Keller Williams? Because Keller Williams is the largest, most innovative, and most respected real estate company in the history of the industry and in the world. And so there we are. Magic comes in 3s. So learn in your presentations to use scripts that end in 3s, like Linda McKissick would say to a seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when you hire me to handle the sale of your home, which, by the way, that's a powerful script right there. When you hire me to handle the sale of your home, I will immediately tomorrow morning notify all the other realtors that it's available. That's 1. Its best features, that's 2. And why they should bring their qualified buyers to see it. That's 3. See, so she doesn't just say, oh, I'm going to put it in the MLS. She gives you the 3 things that will happen because she's going to put it in the MLS. So magic comes in 3s. Now, we know that's true in personal life. We know that health is fundamentally a matter of nutrition. What do you put in? What's the fuel you give your body, including supplements? What exercise do you get that gets your muscles working and your blood system flowing and your cardiovascular system working? And are you getting adequate rest? Are you getting 7.5, 8 hours, 9 hours sleep, whatever you need? But are you getting it? And can you get it? And is it restful? Is it deep sleep? deep renewing sleep, and have you mastered how to do that? And if you're getting those three, you're going to be a healthy person. Magic comes in threes. In Keller Williams, we say it's God, family, and business. We know, we're not embarrassed to put out there that we're high-minded. You know, we're not promoting any religion, but we're saying, look, your relationship to your higher power, your relationship to God is important because it gives you purpose and meaning and values. And so it's important. It's very important. It's fundamental. And that leads you then to how you treat your loved ones, your family, and that your family is next important in a relationship. And then third, it's your business, you know, but it isn't the business is unimportant. It's just third. It's behind those two. And so I use the words spirit, love, and work instead of those three words. In other words, not at the highest level is your spiritual pursuit, your relationship with God, your highest consciousness, and the way you empower yourself with that. And the second one is your love relationships, who you love, who you care about, your friends, your colleagues, your family, of course. And then third is your work, what you do for meaning, what you do for service. Work is important, and our work as realtors is very important. I hope you take it very seriously. It's, as we say, it's not just about the money, although it needs to be about the money, but it's not just about it. It's about delivering great service and being of value. And so we're not undermining work. Work is still important. And then here's the thing. Tim Wood, one of the gentlemen we interviewed in the back of MREA, the 24 millionaire real estate agents that we role modeled, he's from Big Bear, California. And he said, the answer is always in your question. In other words, what he's saying is if you ask the right question, the answers will come to you. And here's what I know. You want to ask how questions, not why. In other words, why don't my kids listen to me? Why am I overweight? Why am I not getting, more listings? Why this, why that? Why me, Lord? Why questions lead into self-analysis and judgment and swamps. They're not good. Now, here's what's empowering. How questions. How can I get my kids to communicate more effectively with me? How can I get more listings? How can I be in better shape? And those how questions are, when we give them from our executive self to our subconscious, we start to then roll our way creatively toward their answer, and the answer will come. Now, Gary is a master at asking questions. I promise it's why he is. And I think we all ought to, in our minds, honor that we are in relationship with perhaps one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the history of business. I think he's up there with Sam Walton and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all those people, because he's changed an industry. I mean, he doesn't go as public as they do. Warren Buffett, same thing, but he has changed an industry and then taken a little company out of Austin, Texas to the top of the industry in the world. That's an amazing accomplishment. And the reason he does it is he thinks clearly and he stays calm. Here are his three questions. So I want you to get this clear, because I'm saying that Keller Williams was built out of adversity. Let me tell you how that happens. It's 1986. Gary's been open for business for 3 years. He's the number one office in his market, but only the 7th largest company, because there's a lot of multi-office companies. And his wife asked for a divorce, and he wants to keep the company. And since it's actually a very successful company, it costs him a lot of money, like over $1 million he has to promise her in order for him to keep the business. And then his partner, Joe Williams, comes to him and says, I need you to buy me out, Gary. I need to invest in properties and things are tight in the market right now. So I need you to buy me out. And because, again, there was a big valuation of the business, cost him over $1 million to buy out Joe in his share of the business. So here's Gary with a couple $1 million in debt. And then what? Then what happens? Well, the market dives. I mean, I was a regional director out of Rochester, New York for Century 21. They moved me to Texas, into Dallas, to combine 2 regions out of Dallas, a mega region, they called it, that eventually became a division. And they did that in 1988. And so I got there just as the market was crashing. And, the savings and loan crash in that part of the world, Texas, Oklahoma, and all of that, was worse than what happened in 2008, 2007, and 2009, that time that we felt. I know the rest of the country felt it then, but it was worse in Texas then. I mean, the members of the local board of realtors dropped by 2/3. Right? It was only 30% of what it was before. Average sale price went down 35%. So it was a tough time. The business was dropping for everybody, and Gary's 90% office ended up being now at 35. And then here's the third thing that happened. This is important to understand about dealing with adversity. 6 of Gary Keller's top agents leave him to go to Remax. Remax had just come to town. Remax is the new game, 100%, all that stuff. And they leave. And so what does Gary do? Does he get angry? Does he get lawsuits against them? Does he try and make it tough for them? No. Does he give up? Does he say, you know what? This business isn't for me. I'm closing the doors and go do something else. No. Here's what he does. He gathers his top 12 agents around him and he says, and he asks this question, how could we reinvent the company so that no one would ever want or need to leave? And wow, for the next 6 months, they start working on that and they built the CAP system, which didn't exist then in the world at all. So that agents could go 100%, but still get all the training and support from the company. They develop profit sharing, they did open books, ALC, the Y4C2Ts, all the fundamental models of Keller Williams got built in that 6 months after Gary, probably 3 months, addressed them, and they got this in place. They really rebuilt the company. Now, in 18 months, they became the number one company in all of Austin. And they said this will work somewhere else. So Gary invested another $250,000 in doing the legal work necessary to make it a franchise system. And then it became a franchise system. But after 5 years, it's losing money and its offices aren't being very successful other than the ones that Gary owns and a couple of others that Mo owned, Mo Anderson, up in Oklahoma. So what happens? Well, this is another important lesson for us. Accountability matters. Gary says, 10% of your success is having written goals. Another 10% of your success is having an action plan to achieve those goals. But 80% of success is accountability. Having someone hold you accountable and keep you on track. Well, he said, I've built this company on consultants. Well, his accountability consultant at the time, very specialized in hiring and managing people, was a guy by the name of Bain Henyon. And he said to Gary, you need leverage. Gary, you're going to have to invest in leverage. You've got great ideas. You're a great entrepreneur. He said, this has real potential, but until you get some people that can implement it for you, it's not going to happen. So Gary went and he hired Mo Anderson from Oklahoma, really the most outstanding realtor in the history of Oklahoma, brings her in as the CEO. Mo then hires me, and I've just come out of being a divisional president with Century 21, and I know the game inside and out. I know how to play franchising big, how to service franchisees, how to structure it legally, all that stuff. So she brings me in, and we then, the three of us, Gary, Mo, and Dave, for the next 10 years, we just built the foundation of this company and grew it. So that's what it, and then we really did start to grow in 2 years, actually a year and a half after that. We became profitable, and then, of course, highly profitable. So that's number one. Number two is, understand that in 2001, we all remember 9/11, right? Well, Keller Williams had Mega Camp. We were doing Mega Camp just like we do now every fall. We had Mega Camp scheduled for 9/12, the day after 9/11. Well, what did we do? Get fearful of terrorism and shut it up? No, we held Mega Camp. Now, we only had about half the people who had registered attending because others couldn't fly in. We understood that. But we were not going to let anything like this stop us. So we delivered Mega Camp. It was wonderful. And then what do? We rescheduled it again a month later when the skies opened up and people could come, and we had as many more people come then. So the total was actually more than originally had been registered. And so we did very well. But then in the midst of all that terrorist anxiety, and our nation's thinking of going to war, we hadn't yet done Operation Iraqi Freedom and gone in, taken out Saddam, but we were thinking of it, right? So early 2002, Gary asked us this question. He said, our growth curve is about like Remax's was 10 years ago and about like Century 21's was 20 years ago. Do we just want to match those, or do we want to make history? Well, what a great question. You ask high achievers, do you want to make history? And we go, yeah, let's make history. So we got together, all of the leaders of the company, and we had this brainstorming for 2 days, and we put 100 ideas on the wall that could cause our company to grow faster. And then Gary, because this is his game, he said, okay, we got to focus. We can't do all 100. So what are the 5 we are going to do? Well, number 1 on the list was write the book. Now, it wasn't called MREA at the time. It was called Mega Agent Productivity Systems. It was called MAPS. That was what we were doing in our masterminds. And before that, it was the Remarkable Real Estate Sales Business Game, which was a little booklet we gave out at every mega camp that kept getting thicker. So what we knew was we had the content. We knew how to help agents turn their real estate practices into real businesses that could expand to whatever level they wanted to, including what we called the seventh level. So we wrote the book, and we did a few other things. And then Keller Williams growth went from 30% a year to 50%. We went from 10,000 agents to 57,000 agents in 4 years. And then that whole momentum laid the foundation. Of course, then we slid into 2007, 2008. And what did we do there? Well, we did profit camps for our brokers. And then we wrote shift for our agents so that we could all, here was our motto, power through the shift. And we did, and we came out of that and then grew from 70,000 to 170,000 agents and became the dominant real estate company in the world. So all of what we've grown has come out of that. Now, the one I skipped in the middle, though, is a powerful question, because as Gary and I were building Keller Williams University, he asked me a very interesting question. He said, Dave, how do top producers think differently than mediocre producers or people that aren't achieving at that level? And he said, we've both worked with them, and we put our heads together, and for 3 days, we really hammered to answer that question. And we came up with what the company calls the 6 personal perspectives. These are the 6 ways. They're not just positive mental attitude. These are deeper than that. And so these 6 personal perspectives are the way high achievers think. And then we began every Keller Williams University course for the next 3 years began with 1 hour or an hour and a half on the 6 personal perspectives. Then we teach whatever the subject was. Because what we know is it's people's mindset going in that makes all the difference in the world. So I would say to you, go back and review those 6 personal perspectives. They're big, and there's training programs on Keller Williams University for that you can go in and really connect with it. It's powerful stuff, but it has to do with growth. Okay, it has to do with growth. Now here's the next thing we need to understand. And that is what are the underpinnings of us as a professional? Well, in any professional area of success, it's knowledge, skills, and attitudes. I mean, I say that to my grandchildren when they go away to college and say, Gramps, what should I do? I said, every course you take, and I want you to take it on purpose, decide what knowledge in this course can I carry through to my career and my life. And then I said, ask in it, what skill am I building that I can take through to my career and my life? And then I said, this is an interesting one. What attitude of attack, of showing up, of responsibility, of optimism, what can you build that you can take on to your career and the rest of your life? So this is the key. And for us in real estate, and some of you who are listening in on this you're brand new or relatively new to real estate. So for some of the ones who are really experienced, this may be a little basic, but I'm going to give it to us anyway. It's a great reminder. The basics always matter. Here's the knowledge we're paid for. Contracts, finance, and property evaluation. In other words, we're in a legal contractual business. We're not attorneys, most of us, but we do everything by contract. And we know how contracts and addendums and disclosures work and what the legal ramifications are. And now with COVID addendums and all that stuff. So master the contracts, right? If Nick, your broker, is giving courses, you need to take them because you need to master contracts. And then finance, get in touch with your finance people. A lot of top agents say to me, the big thing with agents is they delegate too much to their mortgage officer. And they said, you can delegate approval and you can delegate updating you on new financing programs, but you're the fiduciary. You better know financing. You better know the options that your buyer or seller has. And I'm going to tell you right now, get ready for creative financing. It's chapter 10. It's chapter 10 of Shift. Creative financing. When I came in the business in the early 70s, Gary, the same thing. Interest rates were at 12, 14, 15% and higher. And they were that for a long time. And so we were doing a lot of seller financing and seller takebacks and mortgage assumptions and things like that, because that was the only way someone could finance the home. And I think we're going to come out of this. And if people are struggling, because I know my wife and I are buying a new build, I know they're going to requalify us. And all the mortgage companies are going to requalify you before you get to closing because things have gone up in the air. And so people may not quite qualify because their business has gone down, whatever it is. And so seller financing may be a big deal. If someone wants to sell their home, it may be the smartest thing for them to participate in the financing. And that's a whole creative area in and of itself. And by the way, it's also a business opportunity because I know a lot of people in the 90s, a lot of agents who did rent to buy contracts. And it was very beneficial to their sellers because they were getting a higher rent from somebody who didn't qualify, but probably would ultimately. And then they could sell, or if that didn't work out, they were getting a high rent and they could redo that. So buy-sell agreements are a wonder. But anyway, get into financing, make sure you understand that, be ready for what the market we're coming into. And then the final one is property evaluation. So things are selling right now and we need to know what they're selling for. We need to watch those market numbers. We can do it in very detail on command. We can watch our local market on command and see the trends and see the neighborhood trends. And so we become the economist of choice. That's what we say in Shift. You want to become the economist of choice. That means they can hear all kinds of things in the news, but when they want the real information on what's going on in real estate, they come to you. And then that'll be part of the messages you're sending out. Let me tell you what's really going on in real estate. Homes are being listed, homes are selling. Here's what's going on. Here's what's going on with pricing. Oh, by the way, interest rates are the lowest they're ever going to be. And it's very likely when we come out of this, because of inflation is going to happen, they're going to go up. So buyers, best time to do it. Sellers, best time to sell, because then you're going to buy and you're going to buy at the lowest interest rate. So understand what's really going on. But property evaluation, anything that goes on, you need to understand that market. Skills, here are the top 3 skills. Asking for and attracting business. Linda McKissick says you need to learn how to ask for business and not be attached to the answer. She said, that's what I had to learn. She said, I learned that all I had to do was ask. So I didn't ask very well at the beginning, although I learned later how to ask better. But she said, I knew I was going to get no's and yeses. But she said, the only way to get to yeses was to go through no's. And I knew that was the game I was playing. She said, it's like a Major League Baseball player. Goes to bat 10 times, makes 7 outs. What are they? An all-star, a millionaire, Hall of Fame. Why? Because they're getting 3 hits out of 10. Well, maybe the ratio in real estate might be lower than that, but it's still a ratio. And the only secret is that you don't stop asking. So learn, master the art, and give yourself the permission to ask, and don't be attached to the answer. Just follow up on the yeses. Second thing is making effective sales presentations. I was at a wonderful meeting by Mike Ferry. There's another great trainer who I learned a lot from. I learned about scripts and dialogues. I took his action workshop. I learned about the power of words. I learned about neuro-linguistic programming. I learned how to influence people with the way you talk to them, all that stuff. But he stood up in front of the crowd at this big gathering, 2,000 people. And he said, and he's just a prospecting guy. He said, you just call people and say, when do you plan on moving? I'd like to apply for the job of selling your home. And so, he's very, very straightforward. But he asked that group, he said, look, there's 3 fundamental things you have to do to be successful in selling: prospecting, presenting, and closing. What do you think is the most important skill of those 3? And he said, how many think it's prospecting? And the whole room raised their hand. He went, nope, nope. He said, how many think it's closing? About half the room raised their hand. Nope. He said, it's presenting. Because if you haven't mastered a presentation, you won't prospect. You won't ask for business. Why? Because you're not secure about what you're going to say if they ask you questions or they want to know why they should list with you. He said, the second thing is, if you haven't given a good presentation, no one's going to say yes at the end, no matter how tricky your closes are. So he said, mastering your presentation. Now, I want you to write this down right now. Very important. Page 95. MREA, page 95. On page 95 is a listing presentation and a buyer rep presentation on one page. Let me role play it for you. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we begin, may I take a minute to tell you how I work? Basically, I use a 10-step process. Would you be interested in knowing the 10 things I'm going to do to cause your home to sell? Yeah, okay. And then you run through them. They're right there, 10. And you could read them right off that page because there's words. It's not just a little, bullet point. It's the script. And then for buyers, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let me tell you, my job is to get you the best, most affordable home in the right amount of time with a minimum of time and inconvenience to you. Before we begin, may I take a minute to tell you how I work? Sure. Basically, I use a 10-step process. Here are the 10 things I do to help you get in the home that you want. And then they're the 10. The 10 are right there. Page 95, it's right there. So here's the thing for us right now. We need to master these skills, because this increases our bandwidth. And then the final thing is negotiating win-win agreements. And we have a whole bunch of courses in Keller Williams and Keller Williams Connect on how to negotiate. It's all about listening. It's all about helping people understand the outcome they want. It's helping them understand the risk they take by not agreeing. And it's also important they understand the win-win idea that this transaction has to win for both of you. So I'd love to do it just win for you, but that isn't going to work. And so you learn how to do that negotiation. It's a great skill. Now, the three attitudes, we said knowledge, skill, and attitude of top producers are very simply this: intention. They know what they want. It's called outcome framing. They know how they're going to get it, and they know when they're going to do it, and they know why they want it. That's it. It's all about intention. Number two is they're optimists. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, said the key to great strength in life and mental health and achievement is optimism. And optimism isn't Pollyanna, everything's going to work out right. Optimism is I can make a difference. What I do matters. He says there's a difference between a growth mindset and a stability mindset. People with a growth mindset say, I can learn, I can improve, I can expand my bandwidth, I can get better, I can cause better outcomes. People with the stable mindset say, this is who I am, this is what you get, I say what I mean, and I mean what I say, and I'm doing the best with what I got. Well, that's it. They stay stuck, and the optimists, the growth-oriented people, grow. So you want to be committed to your own growth, and that's what you're doing being on this call. And then the final one is, we're going to talk more about it later, is persistence. The ability to hang tough when things are going bad, right? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Well, you learn how do you get to be mentally tough. It's one thing to say, I need to be calmer and more mentally tough, but how do you do it, right? That's the key. How do you keep your mind while others are losing theirs and blaming it on you? As the great poem by Rudyard Kipling, If, starts out. So persistence, right? So intention, optimism, and persistence. Now let's take a quick look at the three books. I'd have all three of these books coil bound sitting on the front of my desk. I certainly would have MREA and Shift sitting next to each other, coil bound so you can lay them flat and flip the pages easily. And then over to the side, MREI about investing. So I want to take just a quick look at, hang on a sec. No, that is not doing it. You know what? I got to find a way to make this smaller. Okay, I'm going to do it that way. I don't want to get out of it. Okay, who cares? Here we go. So the first thing I've got for you here, and I know that Tiffany's making this available for download, so you can, or you already have this in your hand, but this is available because you're on this call. And these are the key pages of MREA. And MREA has a neat table of contents, so you can see right there what's in it, but this is even more detailed. So you can go to page 71 and see the 9 ways that MREA agents think, which is, by the way, the basic one is service, and then standards, and then strategically competitive. And then it goes up there all the way to having a big why, but it's right there. Here, page 95, the top 10 services, both for sellers and buyers. And then I would go to pages 133 to page 147 is all about lead generation. It's all about building your database, building mind share. It's all the goals are there, and that makes it very clear. And then if you're building it into, I'm going to make one comment on this, but if you're building a high performance team, which is what our vision was for MREA, that you didn't just have a business, you could build a high performance team and then ultimately get to the 7th level where you own the team, but you weren't showing up every day because you had someone doing all of the functions. And we outlined what people look like that did that, like Linda McKissick. So page 196 to 203, 7 pages, are really the heart and key of building a high performance real estate team. Now, let me tell you the mistake. I'm just going to put it here. Most agents are not building high performance teams. They're building brokerages. They're thinking by adding a lot of buyer agents and a lot of listing agents and convincing them to join them that they are really doing what MREA says, and they are not. They're missing the point totally. MREA is about building a high performance quality team with a great reputation. And so the first thing you do is hire 2 admins, because what they do is make you productive. This is the number thing you do with the admins is they make you productive, and they add you the stability of your business and the quality service that's felt by your consumer. right? That's what I mean, Russell Shaw, we highlight him in the back of the book. What's his team look like when we interviewed him? First of all, Russell leads it. He doesn't go on any appointments of any kind. He's there every day, he leads it. And he's a marketing genius, right, on TV. Okay, and radio. So he's the leader and the marketing guy, and he has the vision. He's got one listing specialist and another kind of listing trainee, but one at the time, just one. He's taken 350 listings a year. He's got one listing specialist. And he's got 2 buyer specialists because he doesn't want to play much with the buyer side of the business. He's got 8 admins, 8. And he said, that's the heart of my business. Everything in my business is a system, a checklist. We get done, consumers get done. He said, I have got the most efficient, powerful group of people, and they help convert all the leads that come in into appointments. And so my listing specialist just gets his 3 or 4 appointments for the day with all the packages already done and goes out and takes the listings. All I'm saying is the heart of a great team is administrative. It's his systems. And so at the beginning, it's about your productivity. It's like Mike Mendoza, again, another guy that interviewed in the back of the book. And I went to interview Mike and I said, so Mike, tell me, how are you doing this team thing? He said, well, you know, I've been going to all your masterminds and I don't have the same vision that you and Gary have. He said, my affiliate agents, I call them affiliate agents. I don't really supervise them. They can do whatever they want. But he said, they share their commission with me and I have administrative support for them. And he said, that pays for my admin. So in my marketing, he said, so everything I earn personally, I get to keep all that commission. That's my view of it. We went, oh, okay. I said, well, let me tell you. I mean, how many listings did you take last year, Mike? He went, 172. Really, 172. How many sold? 165. 165. Wow, that's a good year. Do you ever work with buyers? Oh yeah, I work with buyers all the time. I love buyers. They're a great source of income. I love working with buyers. And they're going to list someday too. I went, okay, how many buyers did you put under contract? 51. You mean you took 172 listings and put 51 buyers under contract? I said, that's a lot of work. He went, no, it's not like going to a coal mine. He said, I play golf. I involved in charity organizations. I watch my son's baseball games. We have family dinners at home. He said, I just work every day. And so see, but what he masters, that's what I'm gonna get to you. He mastered personal productivity. And if you master personal productivity and support it with administrative staff, then when you get to the point that you've got too many buyer leads, you can have a showing specialist, then maybe they are in the way to become a full buyer specialist under your model and your way. That's what we teach in the book, right? So go there. And then you can see the path to the 7th level, page 273, tells you how to take it as big as you want it to go. Now, the second thing I want to do is share with you something that isn't there. I mean, that's a little more detailed what you looked at of MREA listing than is there, but the Shift does not have a good table of contents. It only has 1 page. It names the 12 tactics, but this is showing you the highlighted pages that really matter. Now, understand, why we wrote Shift. It's really important. When we wrote MREA, and we knew it was going to be a classic in the real estate business, we had that intention, and when it came out in its response, we knew it was a classic, and it has been. It's the #1 selling book in the real estate category on Amazon, even today. And it's been there, 16 years, 17 years. So we were going to think we had to do a second edition. Well, we looked at it and said, well, no, there's nothing we can change. That's timeless truth, well presented. There's nothing we change. But what we didn't cover in there, we said, were the sales techniques. We didn't cover in there the tactical parts of being a great real estate agent, how to list well, how to lead generate really well, how to bulletproof the transaction and take it to closing. So we started writing Shift, and then we realized, we didn't call it Shift at the time. We didn't know what name we'd use, but then we realized the market was shifting. So we did rename the book Shift, right? 12 Tactics for Top Agents in Tough Times. So here's the thing to understand, that Shift really is MREA 2nd or volume 2. MREA covers the business strategic side. Shift covers the tactical sales side. So let me just, the first 3 pages are about dealing with shifted markets. I get that. So if you think it's going to be a shifted market, that is from a seller's market to a buyer's market or something, then fine, pay attention to that. But Chapter 4 is the best thing ever done on lead generation, ever written on lead generation. Find the motivated. That's always the issue. Find the motivated, those who are able, ready, and willing. Able, they can afford it. Ready, they're motivated, and willing, they want to do it with you now. And so do that. So tactic 4, you see I'm stated on page 48, the 2 M's of lead generation, the message and the method. Time blocking, and page 79, how do you spend those 3 hours? What do you do in those 3 hours? Some of it's prospecting, some of it's marketing. How do you do it? What do you do? It's all listed right there. It just makes it easy to know. And if I'm putting in my 3 hours and I'm dedicated to that, there's no perfection here. If I'm doing most of those things that are on there, then I'm making progress. And the only game we have to play is progress. And then we talk about getting people to the table. That's lead conversion. How do you get a lead to come to have an appointment with you? Well, there's a set of scripts and dialogues to do that. Capture, connect, and convert. Those are the 3 C's of that. And then sometimes you put them over into cultivate, but don't escape that too easy. That's like putting something off. Get them there now. Get them there now. Urgency is the key to this. And then we go into the whole thing on working with sellers, pricing it right? Price, staying ahead of the market, pricing it right. And we talk about with them the difference. Just because a home is on the market doesn't mean, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that it's in the market. There's a lot of homes on the market that aren't getting any showings and no offers because they're overpriced or they're in bad shape. But the people I work with, I not only make sure they're on the market, I make sure they're in the market. And that means they're priced right and they look good and they will get multiple offers and they will sell. So my job is to get you in the market. And we have graphs that show that in there that are really good. So then the same thing about staging, and then working with buyers like Mike Mendoza efficiently. When I asked Mike, I said, so you work with buyers, how many hours does it take from the time you first meet them until they're under contract in a home? He thought about that and he said, 4 to 6. I said, really, 4 to 6, that's all? Mm-hmm. Well, how do you do that? He said, I meet with them for 1 hour. They've already met with my finance person. I know what they can afford. They have a pre-approval. And we talk about their interests and their lives. And he said, sometimes I'll just give them some areas to go drive around and see if they like it. I'm not going to take them around there. I'm not a chauffeur. And he said, and then they come back. And he said, then we set up a 2-hour showing appointment. And he said, I've picked 4 houses out that I think fit their criteria that they will like. And we go and look at those 4 and we review each one. And he said, usually they'll buy one of those 4. Now, if they don't, then I say, okay, well, we need to do a second look. And this time I know will one of those 4 you're going to buy. He's just assumptive. And if somebody said, well, why would we have to? And he said, because if you don't, they're going to be gone. So we're going to find one you really like, but by the time you decide, because you've looked at other homes, that one's gone. So I can't let that happen. So we're going to decide on one of these. And so, see, it doesn't take him much time. Why? Because he knows how the process works and he knows how to present it and he works efficiently. You should be teaching that to your buyer agents if you're building a team, by the way. They need to be more efficient at working with buyers. They need to be able to do, if Mike can put 50 people under contract while he's also taking listings and doing everything else, there's no reason that a buyer agent can't do that when that's their total focus and you're providing the leads and the administrative systems. I'm talking to you that are building teams, right? Hold them more accountable. So there's the thing. And then of course, then we get to chapter 12, which is really powerful about controlling the closing, troubleshooting it and bulletproofing it. And there's several techniques in there that are really good. So if you're dealing with transactions that are falling out, make sure that you go there. So that's the technical side of our business. And what I want to do now is I really want to look at let me just see if I I'm going to find this. This is going to be important for me. Nope, not there. Okay. All right. So I had a wonderful chance at Family Reunion to present. I hadn't been on stage at Family Reunion for 10 years. And I've been doing other things, including 3 years of just what I called my homeless journey, on the road with my Jeep Grand Cherokee, my 2 mountain bikes on the back, and my golf clubs, and just traveling the country, staying at Airbnbs, played 235 different golf courses, mastered my game to the best level it's ever been, shot my age 4 times. And then I went to national parks and all of that. But anyway, I really was away from Keller Williams, but I have been a student of this game of self-mastery. It's the number 1 of the 6 personal perspectives: commit to self-mastery. And I know what that means. See, when Gary and I were together and we were building the 6 personal perspectives, he said, Dave, I come from a long line of lethargic people. So I've had to build systems in my life that keep me active. And that's why for him, goal setting and focus and accountability is all important, because it keeps him productive. And for me, I said, Gary, I come from a long line of depressed people. I mean, my grandfather spent the last 20 years in the nursing home, basically catatonic. And my dad had mood swings and anger issues. And at age 30, I started to have cyclical depression. In fact, at age 40, I almost committed suicide. I was very close to ending my life. I was so discouraged and down. And then later, about 20 years later, I had to overcome alcoholism and go to AA and get reconnected with God and get sober. And so my life hasn't been an easy path. I'm grateful for what it's been, but it's been a challenge. And so what I've become is a master of how you control how you think, because I had to get into that literature, the cognitive psychology, the positive psychology, the how we really impact the way we think, not just that we think positive, but we know how we get there. And so I covered that with the people. And here's the one thing I want to say, the one element I really taught, I don't have a picture for it right here, but it's dealing with fear. Because people talk about fight, flight, the fight, flight response. We either get angry when we're fearful, or we escape it, or we freeze. That's the third of the bad F's. We freeze, we get like deer in the headlights. But here's what I say when you face fear. What you do is, there's 3 F's. Face it, focus, and find the solution. In other words, face, focus, and find. So that's what I say, to keep that in mind. When you are facing something fearful, don't run, don't attack. Get calm, stay there, face it, just face it. Then focus. What matters here? What's going on? What really could happen? How should I handle this? And then figure out the path to get to where you want to go. Find the path to where you want to go. And the other thing of that I would just say is, let fear be your compass. I've learned in life that fear, you only have emotional fear. Now, it's one thing to be afraid of walking near a cliff or something physical, but from an emotional point of view, the only time you fear something is when you care about how it turns out, when you care about the outcome. So I say, if you fear something, you're meant to do it. If you're afraid of calling a for sale by owner because they're going to hang up on you, then you're meant to call a for sale by owner. Learn how to do it. Just do it. Right? As Susan Jeffers says, feel the fear and do it anyway. If you're afraid of public speaking, then just get somewhere and step by step, like I used to teach in Dale Carnegie, get up in front of a group and speak out. Give yourself chances to do that. As you do it, you will work your way through the fear. So lean into the fear. And if you need somebody's help to get through it, nothing wrong with that, do that. But just understand, let fear be your compass. For me, I was trying to become a Dale Carnegie sales course instructor. And to do that, I had to go to these 3 weekends in New York. And at the back of the room was this guy by the name of Dominic, a former New York City Police Department guy. And he was in charge of training for all of Dale Carnegie. And he did not want any bad trainers on it. So I was afraid of his judgment. I've always been afraid of people's judgment. And I was afraid of his. So I almost didn't go. I almost didn't. I let my fear almost stop me. And my director of the company up in Albany, New York said, no, Dave, you're good. You need to go. And I went. And after 3 weekends, I was flying high, and I got a high five from Dominic. He said, you're good. You're going to be really good. And that launched my whole career as a teacher, speaker, a leader, an executive, just because I overcame that fear back then. So I would just say to you, if you're afraid of something, let it be the compass that says, okay, I'm meant to do this, not the thing that's the barrier that says I shouldn't do it. So I went to a family reunion, and I did a talk called Light My Fire, the Power of Self-Mastery. And by the way, if you want the full, this is one of the slides that I'm showing you, but if you want the full slides for that, or for something that I'm going to read at the end, plus my top 10 books on dealing with adversity, plus the Magic Comes in 3 slides, if you want those, then send an email to me, dave@kw.com, dave@kw.com, and I will send all those documents and materials to you. Now, I don't want anyone from the market center stepping up and volunteering to do it for everybody, because that's welfare, and I don't believe in welfare. That's socialism. So this is individual. If you request it, now I'm going to ask you to do something. You have to earn it. Make people earn things. So if you want it, you have to write and tell me the 3 things you got out of, or just tell me 3 things you got out of this presentation that I did today for you and with you. right? Just tell me 3 things that were important to you. They don't have to be the most important, whatever it is. 3 things that were important to you or what you liked about this. Just send that dave@kw.com and I will send you those PowerPoints, all those slides, and including this slide and something I'm going to close with in just a second. All right. So here's the point of it, though. I use acronyms because we all in Keller Williams use acronyms. And we said fire, light my fire. And I said, here's the key to really self-mastery. It's freedom, intention, resilience, and enthusiasm. And freedom just means this, that you are free to do what you want to do. And it comes from Agmandino's book, The Greatest Miracle in the World, where he gets a memo from God and simply put, it says, I have created life to be abundant and you can have whatever you want if you will do these 4 things. 1, count your blessings. So that's number 1, count your, and I will tell you, that's the way I stay out of bad moods all the time. When I find my mood slipping negative, I start to count my blessings because I know that'll bring me right to center and on track in a positive way. So count your blessings. Number 2, he said, affirm your uniqueness. I have created you uniquely to be you. Use your strengths, bridge your weaknesses, grow from your strengths, and do it your way. You don't have to follow everybody else's way. You can learn from others, but be free to do it your way. Affirm yourself, affirm your own uniqueness. And then the third thing was use your God-given power to choose. He said, I have created you to be a creator. You get to choose. You don't have to justify your choices to anyone else, just to yourself. And there may be consequences, but you'll work on those and live with them. He said, the point is be free to choose. You make your own choices. And then the fourth one, it doesn't belong in this one, it belongs in the R, which is go another mile. And that was not go the extra mile. That's the hypey side of it. No, go another mile, hang in there, slog, hang tough, just take one more step, just keep moving. Eventually you'll get where you want. But it's like when we went through Alcoholics Anonymous, you get a little chip and it says 1 day at a time. Sobriety, 1 day at a time. It's not about I'm never going to have another drink. It's I'm going to be sober 1 day at a time. And I think a lot of things in life occur when you do 1 day at a time, and it leads to long-term outcomes, right? So that's fire. Freedom, give yourself freedom, live in gratitude. Number 2 is intention. We've already been through that, right? Know what you want, why you want it, how you're going to get it, and when you're going to do it. What we know is life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you see is what you get. So if you're going to be a self-master, you're going to live with intention. You're going to be on purpose. And then resilience is a big one. Resilience is about the ability to stay calm under stress. I once had an agent in Utah tell me, she said, I want to be the calmest person in the transaction, right? If you can keep your head while all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, right? That's the start of Rudyard Kipling's poem, as I said, if. It's just powerful. And so get in that resilience. And even modern psychologists are talking something about the resilience zone, that we build a resilience zone. And that means that when we come to a tough time, we remember the other tough times we had and how we got through them. And that gives us then the courage to move through this time. So we are building our resilience zone. And the one final thing I'll say in here, it's a little formula. It's called MELT. Melt away the stress, M-E-L-T. How do you deal with stress? Here's how I deal with it. Number 1, meditate. And there's 2 levels of meditation. First is the simple one, which I learned from the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi back in the 1970s when the Beatles were going to him for training, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and I learned how to meditate. And so I can get to a relaxed state like that. I mean, I just know my mantra and quickly and count my breath and boom, my physicality is relaxed. So that's the first place. You want to get out of the monkey mind, the beta stuff, into the calm, relaxed alpha state. And then if I work with my wife, who's a deep hypnotherapist meditator, takes her down into what Joe Dispenza calls the theta level of meditation, where now you can put messages to your subconscious that you come out of with creativity and ideas and new energies. It's great. That's the theta level, but you have to work hard to get to the theta level. And you have to often work with someone who's a specialist like my wife, Gina, to do it. I have a session with her every week. And I pay for it because I want to be a client, not a husband. I want to be the husband, but I want to be treated in the therapy like a client. And so I pay for it. But that has just helped me so much. So meditation, learn how to meditate. And you may think that you can't, and that's only because you haven't tried. So everything is difficult at the beginning. So you'll learn. And the more you practice it, the deeper you get and the longer you can go deep and the better it is for you. So meditate. Number two, exercise. And this doesn't mean, on the Peloton and, with a trainer and all that stuff. You can do that, but that's a different thing. No, this is just get the blood going, climb the stairs, go for a walk, get some fresh air, get up and move, shake the limbs, stretch, yoga, all that kind of stuff. Just get your physicality going, exercise. And then L is laugh. Laugh at yourself, laugh at the world, laugh at the stupid stuff that's going on in this chaos and all the political infighting and differences of opinion. Isn't it? It's crazy. Don't watch it though, but you can laugh at it or laugh about it, and then laugh about yourself. The mistakes you've made, the dumb things you've done, and have fun with that. Have fun. Have a good sense of humor. Laugh. And then the final one is train. That's what Gary Keller's mastered. I mean, Gary Keller deals with more stress than anyone else. He's got all this big company. He'll go to family reunion. He'll go to, 19, 20, 21 different events during that family reunion, from one to another. My old assistant, Mindy Hager, is his guide, taking him from one to the next. And every time he shows up as the man, right? Whether it's the vision speech or the state of the company speech, or he's meeting with the regional directors, or he's meeting with OPs, or he's meeting with the top 100 agents or whatever. And each one is a different set of topics and priorities. And he comes to each one. Why? Because he's prepared, he's mentally set, and he's calm. So he's learned how to do that. It's like, I don't know, have any of you seen the recent film called Free Solo? That's the one of Alex Honnold climbing the face of El Capitan, that straight up 3,000 foot granite block in Yosemite Park. And he does it without any ropes or without any safety devices. And he handhold by handhold and little foothold by foothold. The film is kind of scary, actually, to realize this, because at any moment, one little slip and he's gone, right? And yet he's learned through preparation and how to stay calm under the most dire conditions. You can learn it. It's a skill, right? So resilience, fire. And then finally, enthusiasm, and that's the spiritual one. It's the God within. And theos is Greek for the God within. Enthusiasm is our God. Our little kids are enthusiastic. They're curious. They're running around. They're inventive. They're building blocks. They fall over. They don't care. They're riding their bike. They fall over. They get back on it and ride it. The point is why? Because they have enthusiasm. So you want to build your enthusiasm, which is your connection to your inner self and to your higher power and to God, and let that work for you. Let that guide you. Let that support you and encourage you. So there it is. Light my fire, F-I-R-E, freedom, live in gratitude, intention, be on purpose, resilience, stay calm and focused, enthusiasm, may the force be with you. Now, one final thing, and we will turn it over for questions. And I was honored to be asked by Wayne Solomons back in a year and a half ago. He was writing a book called The Art of Getting Back Up. And he wanted me to write the foreword. He said, Dave, I've always respected you. You came up to Alaska and did a presentation on MREA, and you spent 20 minutes with me and you turned my life around. That 20 minutes turned my life around. And I was at a tough time, and I got it back up. I got it together. I moved to the mainland and the States and Texas, and now things are rocking and rolling. So he said, would you please write that forward? So I did. And in it, I reflected on all the tough things, my near suicide and overcoming alcoholism and all that stuff, just to kind of give it reality. But in the end, I wrote these 3 paragraphs. And this is how I look at adversity, because I think life is meant to have adversity. The Buddhists say life is suffering. M. Scott Peck, in his book, The Road Less Traveled, starts it off with the sentence, life is difficult. And then his second sentence is, and when you face that it's difficult, it gets a little easier. So I would just say that it's important to understand, I think maybe it's even part of the way this is designed for us to deal with adversity, and then how we come through that adversity changes us as spiritual beings. But anyway, here's my closing thoughts on it. Here's what I know. All high achievers will deal with failure. They'll deal with doubt, discouragement, and even depression. They'll feel fear and weakness. They'll lose friends they thought were forever. They'll feel judgment they don't deserve. Their hopes and dreams will get cloudy and unsure. They'll want to stop trying so darn hard. They'll want to avoid the pain. But here's what I also know. This path is the path of the free enterprise warrior, the independent contractor. This is the story of the entrepreneur. This is the burden of heroic leaders. It just comes with the territory, part of the game. It's the challenge you must endure, but Beyond the darkness is light. Beyond the pain is joy. Beyond the burden is contribution. And beyond the doubt is meaning. So have at it, bring it on. Get ready, prepare for it, absorb the wisdom, learn the steps, master the skills, feel the power, the resilience, and the tenacity. Bring that confidence to your work, to your venture, to your family, to your purpose. Know that you will certainly get knocked down, but you will never stay down. You have the unstoppable power of persistence. You embrace the optimism and challenge of getting back up. That's the game, everybody. Enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
You bet, Frank.
So we've been collecting some questions here off into the chat box. Let's see here. I had a couple questions here. We were thinking about reflecting on back to MREA and MREI maybe. What are the three things out of there that we maybe we should not mistakes, but things that are that we should be maybe mindful of?
I would say the number one mistake is people don't read them.
There you go.
I mean, the number one mistake is they think they know what we said. They think they know what the 7th level thing is. They think they know what building a team is. They think they know what lead generation is, right? You got to deal with the shift. Markets go up and down. You change the way you say things, but they don't read. See, we put so much rich detail into what we wrote. That's just Gary's nature, and I'm with him in this, and Jay too. We believe in rich, deep, meaningful content written tightly. So there's a lot there. Just like, you think about having two presentations, 2 full listing presentations on 1 page, or having the path to the 7th level on 1 page, or we have the 172 tasks, of a real estate agent organized by 7 functions. That is the wall chart. I don't know if you guys have that in your market center, but the wall chart with 172 tasks of a real estate agent, and you watch it change who does what as you go across the 7th level. That model is an amazing model. Now, that's not in the book, but the summary of it is in the book. So I would say the first thing is to read it thoroughly. And I'm okay. I'm a skimmer. When I read things, I skim. I go to somebody, Glenn McQueenie said this morning, he said, I just go and read the conclusion. And you know what? I do that too. Or I'll skip each chapter and read the last paragraph because I figure they're the author summarizing what they covered. But we built those books for real estate agents who are very active-oriented people. So there's a lot of space, eye candy, headlines, inserts, graphs, charts to make it, easily understandable and interesting. So I would just say the first thing is, Frank, read it and get the details. The second thing is understand what the fundamentals are. It's leads, listings, and leverage. Understand that, and understand it's all about, my number one job is generating leads. The second one is, if I want to be in the long term, it's getting listing agreements, particularly from sellers. And then the final thing is, if I really want a business where I'm not tied to it every day, I need leverage. And then I can take it as big as I want. But you have to do that thoroughly, right? And then over on the shift side, it's master the fundamentals, master your lead generation. Find the motivated. That there right there is the whole secret to building a business. Right there in 1 chapter. Find the motivated, and then learn how to make an effective sales presentation that gets it priced right and staged right. And then if you're working with buyers, learn to do it efficiently, right? To not just let it wander along. So I would say the magic, Frank, is in the details.
Great. Another question we have here: how can we effectively convert our language from face-to-face to email or text?
Well, you always think in terms of a journalist. In other words, what I learned at being the editor of my college newspaper, and it was a great experience that I just kind of accidentally got into as a sports writer, but I learned journalism, and journalism says start with a headline that's attention-getting, tell the whole story in 1 paragraph, and if they're interested, they'll read the rest of the article. So your messages should be very pithy at the front end and attention-getting. Like, what's going on in today's market is amazing. That'd be your headline. Underneath it, homes are actually still selling and people are still buying even with the chaos. See, there's your lead paragraph. Now you say, if you want to know how or you need to sell your home, call me. So that's the other thing. You give them a headline, a lead paragraph, and then a call to action. If you want to know the details, give me a call.
Great. So how should we choose what to do for marketing? There seems to be a lot of things out there, a lot of different ways to reach the database. How do we choose what system or tools are to use?
The most personal. In other words, that my wife, who's a specialist in this, calls it authentic relationship marketing, ARM. In other words, people do business with people they know, people do business with people they like, people do business with people they're referred to. They do not do business with people who market to them. So you must be, in all of your lead generation, building toward personal. So the more you know about them, the more that targets what you're saying in your message to them. But a lot of people, this, by the way, this used to just be done in the advertising thing, right? Everyone would do advertising. And then they would do mailers. Then mailers were the big thing. And every time they thought that doing these generalized Pablomish type statements would like somehow attract them business. And I am sorry, it doesn't. It's a waste of money and a waste of time. Now, I would say there's two places it works. One is just listed, just sold cards, because those are credible. So when you take a listing to 200 homes, Jana Cadell, one of the best agents I ever worked with, she was #1 in her MLS for 14 straight years, 4 of which she was at 7th level. She wasn't even out there taking listings herself, but it was all done under her brand, which is the MREA way. You do it under your brand. But she said, when I said, what's your best marketing tool? She said, just listed, just sold. After every listing, I send out 200 cards to the nearby offices, neighbors, and I say, we just listed this home, or so the Smiths just retained us to handle the sale of their home. That's a phrase I like better. The Smiths retained us to handle the sale of their home. See, that's much more professional than listed with us, or they want us to market, or so the Smiths retained us to handle the sale of their home. If you know of somebody who you'd like to have as a neighbor, please let me know right now. And then there's the number, right? And then the just sold card goes out like this, and it says, we just sold the Smith's home at blank blank, right? The sale of any other home in your area impacts the value of yours. There's the catchphrase right there. See, that's the hook. The sale of any other home in your area impacts yours or affects yours. If you want to know the worth of your home or need to sell it, call me today. There's your call to action. So you've given them a spiffy headline, a benefit to them, and then a call to action. See, that's it. And the other thing is, we're okay with 12 direct. Send out a very short card, better a postcard than a newsletter, or a one-page newsletter to your farm area. We believe in farming. I believe in farming deeply. I think geographic farming, where you become the specialist, having 5 or 6 listings in one neighborhood is so much more powerful than having 10 listings spread out all over the city, right? Because now you look like the dominant realtor. So being focused that way is really important. So pick a farm area, and then what your mailing piece needs to be short, it needs to be personal, and it needs to be about real estate. So that means, and local. So personal, local, meaning it's about their neighborhood, not about some generic thing going on. And here's a newsletter about what's happening with real estate all over the country, all that stuff. You can do that, but to me, it's a waste of money. So make it targeted, personal, local oriented, and call to action.
Great. Yeah, I like that word retained, especially in a climate like this.
Yeah, no, you have a sophisticated marketplace. So using more sophisticated, like Mr. and Mrs. So let me tell you how I work as a professional, right? I mean, this is one of the scripts that Gary always used for new people in the business, where they feel very insecure about they're not very experienced, and here they're going out into, say, a sophisticated market. Here's the script to use. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I want to tell you that I am a real estate professional. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And if you ask me a question and I know the answer, I'm going to tell you the answer, and you're going to be able to trust it. If I don't know the answer, I got this amazing team behind me in my office, and I will go get the answer, and I'll come back, and you can trust that answer. So right away, so you don't have to know it all. When we try and fake it as if we know it all when we don't. That's when we stumble and we lose credibility.
Yeah, that's great. Another question. How can we continue to build enthusiasm with our clients who have their home currently listed and not just using market data, but as for building our resilience? What can we take away from the previous shifts that brought resilience to you and during this specific time, and what's been helpful?
Well, what you say is, what we know in real estate, this too shall pass. I mean, this is like a short-term, it may have a lot of big impact in other places, but in real estate, this is going to be short-term. It's inconvenient right now. So what we're doing is getting the best information out there for your home right now. So let's talk about how we could make it more attractive for people to get it right now. Maybe we could get your home inspected so that it was already pre-inspected. Maybe we could do some incentive, some buyer or seller contribution to the buyers. And then, by the way, one of the things I'm going to do, this is what I'd say, is I'm going to target those agents who are most working with buyers in your area and give them a special promotion on your house, right? So I think part of it is they need to feel your determination. See, they're learning from you, just like your children do. So if you're starting to feel discouraged and I don't know how it's going to work out and I'm not sure, and you're trying to defend off the obligation, as Andy Allen, one of the great agents I've ever worked with, said, every time you call them, they should feel better about working with you after the call. Right. And you could say, you know what, I'm finding other people who have listed with other people, they haven't even heard from their agent. You're going to hear from me because I'm still in the game. I'm still in the game. By the way, do you folks have our Keller Williams consumer app? This is a big thing. This will give you all the information you need on what's going on in the marketplace in addition to what you get from me. And I can bring it to you as one of my services as a member of Keller Williams to give you the chance to be on our Keller Williams app. Would you like that? Oh yeah, I would. Great. And then you do that. So now you're making progress. And by the way, you folks are moving to blank, where they're moving. So you can use this app to find out what's going on with real estate up there. And by the way, if you need some guidance as to what agent to work with in that place you're moving to, please let me know, because I have a network that I can get you to the right person. Agent to agent referrals, by the way, is a big deal. I was just off a referral call Wednesday. A whole group of people retained me to come in and deliver this to them. And they're all over the country, referral agents. And that's one of the things Gary Keller says, one of the biggest parts of your business should be agent to agent referrals. So one of the other things to build in this time is your agent to agent network. What agents work in places where your people go or where people come to you from? Build your relationships across those networks. Build it through Keller Williams. That doing agent-to-agent referrals is a big thing we care about in the company. And one of the things, and you might say this to agents who are with other companies, because the best time for them to move to us is right now, because their company is letting them down. Their company is not providing the support that we are, and their company isn't positioning itself for the future like we are with technology. So I'd say with your relationships and your time, invite people to come over and meet with Frank and get themselves on over here and take advantage of this. But one of the big advantages of us compared to all the big other corporate companies is we don't have a reload division, which is good because we don't interfere with agent referrals. We don't have our hand in the till. We don't say you got to go through our reload officer, our reload director. We'll select the agent on the other end. None of that. We allow agents to go direct, person to person, and keep the money. That's a big deal. And it means that's another evidence that Keller Williams is dedicated to the role of the individual real estate agent.
Right. If there's one thing that you would add to MREA, what would that be in today's market? Anything in?
It's interesting. Well, no, because I really think that I would just say this. It probably would have a section in the back that would say, okay, you've read all this, now let us give you the warning signs. And that's where I break down the 3 or 4 mistakes that people make trying to go to the 7th level, right? Trying to implement the idea of MREA. So I think there would be sort of a little caveat. Maybe we should have an ebook that says, read this, warning, read this before you try and do MREA. But the other, I want to say to people, I really should have said this earlier. If you don't have the latest version of Shift, see, Shift was written in 2008. It's when we brought it out. But in 2010 or 11, 2 or 3 years later, Gary Keller rewrote a new foreword for the book. It's about 16 pages long, and I will tell you, it's one of the best things ever written on personal achievement, ever written. I didn't know he had done it, honestly, because by then I was out doing other entrepreneurial things, and I wasn't actively with Keller Williams International. So I didn't know this had been done, but I went and got my copy of the latest edition, which I had in spiral bound, and I looked at the front and I went, ooh, I didn't read this before. And I read it and I went, oh my God, this is so good. So if you don't have that latest edition, then go to somebody that does and photocopy it or order a new copy or something. But that forward is powerful.
Yeah. And one other question I think you already answered it a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
How to handle geographic farming at crisis times like this?
Why do you think it changes?
Well, there's definitely some in our local area. There's different guidelines and restrictions being put out by government, by the real estate commission.
So, what are the restrictions? I mean, just give me an idea. What kind of
it's affecting inspections, municipalities, certificates of occupancy.
Well, I think you need to go to your board, and you need to get your attorneys in action, and you need to say, look, this is critical. The sale of these people's home is critical to them. They're moving on. They have a new job somewhere. If we don't get this done, we've done devastating to them. And we can do this with masks and gloves and social distance. Having an inspector go in is it's safer than going to the local supermarket and buying your groceries. So I think you need really to encourage you to muscle up with them and say, look, we're an essential profession. And you may decide you can write us off, but we got people that are doing with urgent things. So that's the same thing. And I would work with inspectors that are willing to kind of push that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Where they just go, what are you going to do? Arrest me? That kind of thing. Because sometimes one of the things that's really interesting, Frank, and I'll just say this is more philosophic. I can't believe the way we are acting like sheep in a society where we were built on individual liberty. Right. I mean, it's a wonderful thing I posted. It showed the room of the signers of the Constitution. Right. And at the top it said, oh, by the way, none of this matters if there's a virus. And that's powerful. We need to be very careful that we're not just caving in to everything, because we have work to do. It's not just about being selfish and inconsiderate of others, but everyone's trying to put this kind of virtue signaling on it. If you aren't wearing a mask, or you're not wearing gloves, or you're actually going out and doing things. No, you can be very careful and do that. So anyway, that's the thing. I just think we need to work with our real estate professionals everywhere we can and make the right thing happen.
Yep. Yeah, we are doing a lot of that, and state to state, municipality is different. But I think you touched on some great stuff here today, especially building agent to agent referrals.
Yes.
There are other parts of the country doing business.
That's right.
And you could still have a piece of that.
That's right.
So,
and what the hope you want to get out to your people is, look, the real estate didn't cause this decline. So when we come out of this health issue, real estate's going to be popping and moving. So, let's be ready for that. And we need to say that to ourselves, and we need to be ready for that. And that's why we need to be really active in this time. Yeah.
Great. Nicole or Tiffany, did I miss anything on questions? Any other questions out there?
One question that somebody asked earlier is really how to handle that objection of the market is going down. I think he talked a little bit to that, but do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, we don't know what the market's doing. It's probably not going down. Right now it's slowed because there's a complexity in what's going on, and people are driven by a lot of fear. But I would just tell you, for you as a seller, having your market, you're out there and working with me and having me doing the promotion I am is the best thing you can do. So when we come out of this, I mean, we're gonna get your home sold. The other is with buyers to say, look, here's the thing to understand. The one thing we know is going to happen is interest rates are going up. We know that. Why? They've been at the lowest they could possibly be, and they have artificially been kept down. And we now have flooded the economy with paper money. And that always is the beginning of inflation. So understand that interest rates will not stay where they are. So if you're going to buy, now is the time, please, now is the time to buy, because I'm telling you, by fall, end of the year, those interest rates are not going to be at 3.5%.
Great, thank you.
You bet. Well, I'm just going to say thank you, everybody, for being with me for this 90 minutes, and I hope it was valuable. Remember, if you want the copy of those things that I said earlier, those documents, happy to send them to you. Just send me an email, dave@kw.com. Tell me the three things, or three things. You can tell more than three, but at least three things that you got out of this time together that made it valuable, and then I will send those to you. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate you.
Dave.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Dave. Nicole, you want to close us out there on some other remarks?
Yeah, we have a couple more speakers. So we have Lindsay from Cutco, and then we also have Randy, who will be speaking in about 10 minutes. So I haven't had a chance to connect with Lindsay on chat, but I saw that she was on the line. Let me see if I can find her to unmute her. All right, Lindsay, I'm about to unmute you, so hopefully you're in front of your computer. All right, you good?
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
Hey.
Hey, everybody, it's great to see you. Stay on the line because I'm going to be doing a giveaway of some free stuff. And I want to say that I really appreciate, give a little wave or a thumbs up if you got something from that talk right now. That was awesome. I wrote down fire and melts and all the acronyms there. As I start speaking here, I'd like to know a little bit about you guys. Could I have everybody just put in the chat box the number of years or months or how long you've been in real estate? And by the way, I want to say hi to a few familiar faces. Hi, Frank. Hi, Wendy. I see Carlton. I saw Chris Norton on there. It's great to see you guys. Yeah, just put how long you've been in real estate. And the reason I'm curious about this is because I have been working with my company. I've been in sales for over 20 years. And I have been selling specifically to real estate agents since 2008. And give me another little wave if you guys know what happened in 2008. That's right. Okay. So even if you weren't in the industry at this moment, you are probably well aware that this isn't the first time that the real estate industry has been faced with a challenge. And if anything, I remember 08 and 09 so clearly, where like you couldn't get anybody a loan, or it felt like that. Even if people had 20% down, it was difficult to get them in the house. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and I want to put out the word of encouragement that there's a huge possibility that all of this is going to bounce back like a trampoline. I'm in Pennsylvania, where it's even more shut down than Jersey, and at the same time, one of my top agents that I just talked to, he told me that he picked up 5 new listings just last week. And so there's a lot of people out there still making it happen. And even more important than that, I want to emphasize that right now is not the time to be what's called a secret agent. Now is the time to step out and be a leader in your industry. There's always a lag time in this business between doing the right activities and when you actually get paid. What you do in October determines your paycheck in November, December. So the important thing that I want to encourage you to do right now is to act, do the right actions, be prepared so that you are there to gather all those people in for you when this all bounces back to normal. And in terms of, Dave said something that really resonated with me, nothing lasts forever. Someone said something to me very wise recently, a mentor that I have in sales, and he said, don't let what you can't do keep you from what you can do during this time. So I see a whole range of how long people have been in the industry on the chat box. That's awesome. 15 years from Monica, 19 from Ellen, Adrian, 1.5, 5 years. Okay, great. So we've got a whole range of people here. There's 3 places that you might be at or feel like you're at this time. 1, either your business has been affected and you're feeling it and you might be worried. 2, it's business as what my friend calls usual-ish, right? Obviously it's not the same exactly, but things are kind of rolling, like you're just adjusting. And the third type of person is like, you've never been busier, right? So I'm going to share how we can support you no matter which one of these three you are. Now in the future, I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can touch on your clients completely for free during this time. And if you take notes, these are 3 that you can put into action immediately. So number 1, call 10 people in your past client space or in your sphere of influence, 10 calls a day. And I want to emphasize that what I mean there is real calls, right? Like pick up the phone and actually talk to somebody, not just a text, not just a Facebook message, 10 actual real calls a day. Almost everybody can do that. I want to also emphasize that you don't need a script. You don't need something specific to say. Literally just come from a genuine place, call people, check in on them, see if you can help. And it might feel like you can't really do much for anybody right now, but you can. There's a lot of people who need to be recommended to your favorite loan officer right now because they're going to refinance. There's a lot of people who you could refer your CPA to because they want to figure out exactly how they're supposed to apply for the stimulus checks. Even just asking though really makes a huge connection and means a lot to people, and it shows that you're active and you care about them, not just at the moment that you're bringing them to the settlement table. So number 1 is just call 10 people a day. If you've got a past client base, I would focus on that and make your sphere of influence second. And if you're a newer agent, you can focus on your sphere of influence. Quick thing that one of my top clients said to me was, and this is intense, but I want to say this anyway. She said to me, you know what? I feel like if you don't call somebody right now, you're basically communicating to them that you don't care if they're okay. And that hit me. Any hesitancy that I had to call someone and check in, like maybe they'd think I was just trying to sell them something. Guys, don't worry about that. Just come from a genuine place, call people, check in, and you never know where that conversation will go. And then number 2, action step that you can take so easily right now. And I guess this actually does cost a little bit. It's going to cost you a stamp, but write somebody a handwritten note. Again, another old-fashioned way of reaching out to people. It's going to mean so much to somebody right now to get a handwritten thank you card. And what should you be thanking people for? I would thank anybody who sent a referral your way, whether it was successful or not. You want to reward the activity, not just the results. So anybody who's given you a referral, anybody who helped you get a transaction through. Dave mentioned other real estate agents, because if you're nice to them, they can be a great source of referrals for you. So why don't you drop a quick handwritten thank you note to somebody that helped you get a transaction across the finish line that might have been difficult otherwise. It's great to know that you were great to work with. So anybody that helped you in any way, give them a handwritten thank you note. And the third thing that anybody can do is post something on social media, at least once a week, if not every day. And I'm sure you guys have noticed the uptick in social media activity on your feed. And I'll tell you, mine's like exploding. And if you've ever felt like, oh, I don't look good on video, or I don't like how I sound, I want to encourage you to get over that right now, because I'm telling you, my feed is full of a whole bunch of people with unwashed hair, and people are doing karaoke, they're dancing, like nobody cares. If there's a time to fail forward, this is the time. And I encourage you to just come from a genuine place and share something genuine. A lot of you have stuff of value that has nothing to do with real estate that you can share. Like maybe you're a good cook, or you've got a good recipe. I'm seeing so much food on my feed right now. Maybe you've got a great garden and you can teach the rest of us how to not kill our plants. And another thing you can do is you can shine the light on somebody from your community. Like you can thank your doctors and nurses. You could have a childcare expert come on and talk a little bit about how to keep kids busy when you've got them at home. Like what's a fun, cheap, low maintenance game to play with the kids, that sort of thing. So everybody can do this. 10 calls to your sphere or your past clients, 5 handwritten notes, and a social media post or 2 each day. So those are my 3 tips. And as far as what my company can do to help you specifically during this time, it's never been more clear to me how valuable gratitude and appreciation are, and how important it is for small businesses to support each other during this time. Give me a wave real quick if you're familiar with Cutco knives. Anybody here have Cutco knives at home? Look at all these sexy, intelligent people on the call. I love it. So for anybody who doesn't know, they're American made, and they've been around since 1949. I see Miklos is saying he's had it for over 20 years. That's awesome. They literally are guaranteed forever. If you're not familiar with them, I'm just going to show real quick our scissors, because these are famous for being able to cut a penny. And I hope everybody can see that's a real penny. I can't pull it from my piggy bank. It's not like paper or anything. And we're just going to give Abe Lincoln a little haircut here, just like everybody else. I know I need a haircut. We're going to give him a little haircut, and give me a wave if you've noticed that people have been drinking a little bit more during this. Anybody like opened more bottles of wine this week than they did on a normal time? So I'm going to make a corkscrew right here. And oh, Patricia's given me a nice referral here. She's saying, or a testimonial, she's saying, I've had my set for 30 years and I've purchased client gifts from you. I can't live without the scissors. Love it. Yeah, so if you're having trouble opening a bottle of wine, just ask me. I'll send you this corkscrew made out of a penny. And this thing is pretty cool. So that's just to show you the strength of the scissors. What this has to do with real estate is this. Any of you guys know the kitchen is the most trafficked room in the house. It's the most important room in the house. It's where people gather. Give me a wave, one more wave, if you're cooking more than you have been before during these times. I posted on Facebook recently, is anybody using their Cutco more than they used to? And I got 111 responses in like a few hours. Everybody was like, yes, 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 I'm cooking. So if you can incorporate a client gift into somebody's daily routine, it's way more valuable than what I might call a typical closing gift. Give me one more wave if you've ever seen somebody give like a gift card or a bottle of wine or a basket at closing, right? Most people give some sort of gifts at closing, and I'm not here to bash on stuff like that, the typical gifts, but I do want to emphasize that if it doesn't do anything for you or the client going forward, if it can get used up, stuck in a drawer somewhere, forgotten, it doesn't do anything to move the relationship forward. And so what we do is we just put your logo, name, and number on the Cutco knife. I'll highlight a piece right here. This is the spatula spreader, and this is for like peanut butter, mayonnaise, cream cheese. You can get to the bottom of a jar without getting it all over your knuckles. So peanut butter, mayonnaise, cream cheese. Everybody's making peanut butter and jelly right now, cutting a bagel, spreading the cream cheese, right? And so they'll use this every single day and look at the name of their realtor, and that has a powerful effect. My favorite story from a Pennsylvania realtor recently was she gave this to a client who moved across the country. So it was a seller, and she moved to California. And 2 years later, the lady gave her a referral for her sister who was still living in Pennsylvania, needed to sell her house. It was a $400,000 commission. And the agent said, hey, what did I do to help you remember me? What did I do right? And the client said, oh, I've been looking at your name every day since I moved. She didn't take any other type of marketing with her, the little calendars and the postcards and anything the agent had sent, but of course she took her Cutco. She didn't leave that behind. So we put your logo, name, and number on something that they'll literally use every day, probably 2 or 3 times a day during all this. And the second thing that does for you is create a bigger tax deduction. Normally you can only write off $25, but because this is engraved, you just tell your CPA to put it in the category, thank you, for marketing, advertising, promotion, and that's 100% a write-off. And so what I like about my job is I don't have to get people to spend extra money on a new program. They can spend the same amount of money they're spending on other stuff, get more bang for their buck, and get the full tax write-off. And lastly, we just help you keep a system in place. So now more than ever, it is not the time to be running around and like picking up a closing gift. You're not a personal shopper. What most agents do is they just order a year's supply. So let's say that somebody did like about 1 gift a month last year, 12 gifts. We order them 12 gifts, and you can split your payments in as many as 5 to 12 months. So for instance, if you got 12 of these, you could pay for 1 right now. We would ship you half of them right now. You pay for another one next month, another one next month. We'd ship you the other half of the gifts 6 or 7 months in, and so forth. So our gifts range anywhere as low as 65 up to, I would say, like about 250, 280. We do have luxury gifts for higher price home if you want them, but the average agent spends probably somewhere between 1 and 150 for a closing gift. You can split the payments over time, like I said. I did promise I'd be brief on here, so I see a couple questions. I'm glad you guys are interested. What I'm going to do is this. Normally I would bring something like lunch or breakfast or some kind of treat for you guys. Since I can't do that in the digital world, I'm going to do a drawing for a free piece of Cutco. And the way you get it is this. I'm going to put my cell phone number here at the bottom, and it is 717-575 If you guys text your email, text your name and your email to me at that number, anyone who sits down for a quick personalized quote with me, I will put you in the drawing to win a Cutco knife that we're going to do a drawing for, a Cutco piece. Okay. So anybody who just text me your email and your name, and anybody who sits down for a quote, you go into the drawing. Anybody who orders, I will personally buy you up to $100 in Cutco for free. And the first 5 people to order, I will buy you 150. All right. So first 5 people get a little extra, 150. Anybody who orders gets 100. And we are lowering our minimums right now. So we are adjusting just a bit in case your year might be a little bit less predictable than last year. That's no problem. So if you text me at that number, I already got something from Kitan. Lovis came in. Yep, already getting some text. If you sit down with me, you get into the drawing. When you order, if you're the first 5, you get 150, and anybody who orders gets up to 100 personal gift from me. Thank you guys, and no matter what happens today, stay sharp, stay safe, and stay well, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you guys. Great.
Thanks.
All right, so next up we have Randy. He was also one of our sponsors today, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute Randy. Is that working? Tiffany, could you try? When I'm clicking unmute, it's not working for me. Oh, there we go. It went through.
Can you hear me?
All right, Randy. Yes, we can hear you now. How are you?
Great. Hey, guys. Glad to have the opportunity to sponsor the call, the whole 9 yards. I'm not going to hold you up. Just letting you know the market's moving. We are getting plenty of closings done. Lots of changes within the industry, but I try and keep you guys updated with that weekly if possible. Don't know what else to tell you other than the Fed's still buying securities. Rates are around 3%, 30-year fixed, conventional, and the 15 years are around 2.5. But the mortgage capital is moving right now. We don't know what's on the horizon, but things are pulling through. Any major issues or questions? Because like I said, I don't want to hold you guys up.
Yeah, I'm sure we have some questions here. Let's,
Hey, Frank.
if you have something, go ahead and put it in the chat box.
Chat. Let me just see.
You know, Randy, you shared a lot with us last week at our monthly meeting. I know not everybody was there. There's definitely a lot of good highlights and feedback last week. If there was anything you wanted to repeat, I think it would be worth discussing now.
Well, some key factors, Frank. The markets are literally operating right now on the acquisition of the new issues of the mortgage loans. For a while there was no investors that wanted to buy mortgages because they were very, very scared about 2 major things. I'd mentioned forbearance, you know, with the onset of the federal government saying that they were trying to get people to be able to a forbearance on their mortgages for up to 3 months. And no lender or no servicer wants to put their money into the mortgage-backed security market if they're not going to be getting their payments. So the big issue was they were worried about first payment defaults. And literally we've gotten past that. They started buying mortgage-backed securities as part of that stimulus package. Not a lot was allocated for it, but they managed to put it in accurately, correctly, and timely, and it opened the market back up. And right now we're starting to see new coupons come online in the 2s, which is obnoxious, but we could see 30-year fixed rates at 2.5 when things start to settle back. They literally put a moratorium on a lot of the more off-the-cuff mortgage programs. A lot of the commercial lenders that were doing those, bank statement loans and stuff that was actually commercially related, they could not get pricing on, so they suspended those. And also the state of New Jersey had issues with their pricing. So a lot of the state programs were put on hiatus. Now, we are hearing that Monday or Tuesday that some of those will be coming back online. And that includes the grant program, which has been very useful. A lot of people have been utilizing it. And last week, they actually told us that they were suspending it with no closing opportunities. We fought as an organization and got that for us to be able to close our pipeline, but they shut down the new issues, and it looks like they're going to reopen them again next week. So capital is moving. Mortgages are moving. It's important. Don't be showing houses to people if any of the members of the mortgage application are on hiatus, meaning they were on unemployment, because they will not allow them to close until they're employed again. So for qualifying on one borrower and they're employed, no big deal. But if we've got to look and analyze each individual situation, that way you're not going into contract, et cetera, et cetera. Appraisers are getting in. We're working amazingly with doing our closings online. So we're having a lot more success with people that have been showing or that have been a little tentative about holding closings. We're doing a lot of it online, and we've accelerated the ability to do almost all of them in all programs. So a lot of good stuff. Hang in there, and I'm hoping things lighten up a little bit more soon. Oh, can't hear you, Frank.
Sorry, just looking at the chat box. We have a question. What's going on with refinance?
Refinances are, it's madness. That's the majority of what's being written right now, but it's the same scenario. If either one of the borrowers are not employed, we can't close until they're employed. And the funny part is, literally people that have been working for 100 years and have never been laid off, Fannie, Freddie don't care. They just, no changes on that. I saw a note from Debbie. Do you know how the temporary job loss will impact loans? We don't have any future notifications from the agencies as to how they'll handle people that have been temporarily furloughed. But I would have to assume, and I'm hoping my assumptions are somewhat accurate, that they will allow people, once they go back to work and we can verbally verify their employment, that they will continue and fund those loans with not having any, what do you call it, codicils for being on the job or being off the job for a certain period of time. The key is, if you're employed and we can verify it, we're verifying 5 days prior to closing. And other than that, I don't see any reductions in income. You know, say for example, somebody that's been working overtime and now they're furloughed for overtime for 2 months. We're hoping that they're not going to look at that as an average now and lower the actual qualifying income. They're going to just take it as like a bump in the road and we move forward. A lot of that we're waiting on clarification for, but nothing major at this point. Oh, can't hear you.
Anything unique about or special with first-time home buying programs right now?
That was one of the big things. Our last meeting, which was last Wednesday, technically, I think maybe, it was last Wednesday.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Home Seeker Grant and its availability, and that afternoon they furloughed it. So that's what we're hearing. It's coming back online sometime next week because there's a lot of people that are sitting there waiting for the grants to come back in.
Right.
There's plenty of funding left in the grants, but they stopped them because the state was having a hard time finding access for their loans on the secondary market. That's why they raised the rates on those special programs by almost 3/4 of a point in one day. Now we're seeing them come back online, and hopefully I'll be able to send out good news to everybody next week that they're ready to go. Police and fire is still available because they are considered first responders and they've made special exceptions on those. We're also doing stuff for anybody that you have that might be a first responder, nurses, doctors, along those lines. We're cutting dramatically the application fee for those people. Don't want to be, what do you call that, in a situation where it looks like we're being we're not discriminating to a certain degree. We're just trying to give them a leg up because of,
Right.
we appreciate the extra effort that everybody's doing to get through this.
Right.
So other than that, Frank, I'm hoping that they don't have any further furloughs on these and things come back online and it's business as usual. It's going to be interesting to see the new normal. And I can't wait for those guideline overlays. I'll relay them as soon as I get them.
Yeah, appreciate that. Nicole or Tiffany, just any other questions on chat or that you guys may have thought of?
Shoot notes, guys. If you got individual questions, I'm here for it. Literally, I'm going to be working for the weekend trying to catch up on, people are wondering what's going on. They want to be qualified. And that's what I'm doing. Whether they can put an offer in right now or not, I'm still doing the qualifications to get people ready to go.
Yes.
Tahir has said about federal employees.
Yes.
As far as our little outlay of that special thing, if they're working for FEMA or something along those lines and they're considered first responders, we will extend that application fee reduction to them as well. This was more along the lines of just saying thank you for the extra effort that a lot of people have been putting out that we don't recognize very easily. The nurses, the doctors, the police, everybody that's involved in the front lines of this. So it was a nice gesture. We got together and just threw it out. And hopefully we won't have too many more of these issues going forward. But just bear in mind, mortgage capital is moving. You guys can get loans to close. And in fact, we're doing a ton. And I got to really hand kudos to my own staff for the efforts that they've been making to get these loans closed. So don't forget, guys, just shoot me notes. If you have questions, got my email, just send it over. I'll be more than happy to help.
Maybe at least one more question here. How the temporary job loss, well, I think you described it, but how the temporary job loss will impact loans?
Again, Frank, anybody and there's a lot. I mean, we saw the numbers, and in fact, I'm actually impressed with the numbers. I thought they would be worse, and that may be as things trickle through, it may get higher. But temporary job losses will be considered just that. If people were unemployed due to this virus, once they are employed again, they can go back through and get completed. If you've got people that you have with lenders at this point in time that you're worried that you've heard them have a job loss and the lender is not aware of it, make the phone call to the lender to find out what their policy is specifically for that case without really triggering, what the current issue is, because they're going to verify 5 days prior to closing. And that means from 5 days to the day of impact that they are still employed. If they're not, the deal shuts down. If they're temporarily furloughed and they go back to their jobs, it's considered back online at that point in time. They can be verified. We're not going to cut their income based on the amount of time that they were off on an average, and they'll be able to go through with it. Oh yes, and I see, what are the guidelines now as far with credit scores and DTI? Debt to income ratios have not changed. However, a great deal of overlays, and I did mention this at the end of the meeting last Wednesday, have gone into place on credit scoring. Credit scoring is now 660 versus 620. And it looks like that's going to hold for a while. And a lot of that, honestly, was put into place to make mortgage securities more attractive so that we actually had a market created in resale. Doesn't mean that we're not going to go back to that shortly. We're waiting for direction on that, but they have increased credit scores across the board. And that will include conventional FHA, VA, USDA. DTI didn't change, and DTI shouldn't be affected by the fact that if they had a job loss, that the income will be averaged. But I will let everyone know as soon as the guidelines begin to unrestrict. And again, Frank, like I was saying, a lot of this was done to make capital available, because for a while there, they were stymieing the rates up to 4.5, 4 3/4 to shut it down. And not to shut it down, but to make them attractive to be acquired on the secondary market. So with that starting to come back in line, maybe we'll see another one. Can you explain how the income will be averaged? At this point in time, they're not going to average through the months that the income was reduced by. They're going to actually do an average based on, say, for example, somebody's making overtime these are their high overtime months and their overtime was cut off. They're going to do an average situation, not utilizing those months that were skipped. So we're not going to see drastic reductions in income. That's what I've heard so far. If that changes, I'll be the first to let everybody know, but they're keeping somewhat of an intelligent aspect as far as how they're reviewing everything. They understand this is hopefully temporary in nature, and they cannot change the way that they're going to actually average or review overtime or anything along those lines, unless I'd have to say this went out for a substantially longer period of time.
Right.
So right now they're staying on average as it was, without incorporating those extra skip months.
Right.
Not a lot of other real bad stuff going on. I mean, like I said, we've worked diligently here to get closings done literally on very little impact personally. I mean, I hate that because I like the personal touch in everything that we do here, but people are not into the personal touch right now. They're into the personal untouch. They don't want to be around people. Believe me, I've got appraisers that I talk to on a daily basis now, and they're sitting there going, I walk through the house with gloves on and I don't touch a thing as I go in and out. And nobody wants that at this point in time. They were holding closings in parking lots. Now we're doing most of it online. So any necessary wet signature can be a hop, skip, and a jump, in and out. And it's working very well. People are very happy with it. So we're getting them to closing, and we're all losing our minds, but we're doing it. So
Great. All right.
other than that, guys, like I said, if you need, reach out. Just shoot notes. I'm on conference calls
Sure.
4 hours a day now, but when I'm wrapped up, I can try and answer everything that comes through.
Got it. Anything else?
Hey, Frank.
Tiffany or
Thanks
Nicole?
again for having the opportunity to sponsor. I hope everything went well with the call.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Lindsay and Legacy Branding Gifts, Randy, Finance of America, and special thanks, Dave Jenks, for visiting Princeton. And thank you to everybody that's been here today that made time to be with us. We know there's a lot of different content out there and things you could be doing, but we're grateful and thankful that you were able to join us today.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in and let you guys know I did drop some things into the chat box while we were going, some of the downloads that were there. We will send out the all the downloads again via email if you didn't get them from the registration list. So if for some reason you weren't registered, please make sure you shoot myself an email, tiffanypinch@kw.com. That way I can get you that information.
And thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany was really the cause of this. Tiffany participated in a pro coaching session with Dave a couple weeks ago, reached out to him and made all this possible. So thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany.
Anything for you guys.
All right, everyone. I think we're going to sign off and say goodbye. Join us at 3:30 for Friday Unwind if you want to put your corkscrews to use. Otherwise, have a great weekend. And we'll see.
Get a haircut.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.